Do you know where they issued a travel advisory for black people not to go?
Yeah.
Florida. Every day there's stories like that where that just makes people roll their eyes.
What? They issued a travel advisory for Florida? Don't black people live in... Yeah, black people live in Florida. I know of you black people who live in Florida.
Only had those people.
Mm-hmm.
Why is he now like tied? Because the other part of the coalition are people who they don't really like him that much. They just think the far left has gone so nutty on so many issues.
That's what they're being told.
That's what they...
By people like you.
Because it's true.
This video is going to be good. So what's happening is that Bill Maher, I think that's his name, Bill Maher, is going back and forth with some woman named Jane Fonda. I have no idea who Jane Fonda is. I barely know who Bill Maher is, if I'm being honest. I've seen him in a few videos, but I don't know what he stands for. I hope this is a good one. My main field of study is engineering, so I'm not really deep into political worlds, but I do find it interesting. They're talking about Trump, by the way. Without further ado, let's get into it.
You think the far left does nothing crazy?
Oh, I'm sure they do.
Oh, well then...
But I don't know. Who is the far left? What do you mean when you say far left?
I mean, I could give you a million examples.
Yeah, well, give me one.
Okay, the NAACP.
You think the NAACP is far
Could
left?
I finish my sentence?
Yes.
You asked me for an example.
Yeah.
The NAACP last year issued a travel advisory. You know, that's like the State Department does to go to, I'm sure when you went to Vietnam, they were advising you not to. There's a war on it.
I didn't talk to them. I don't have no idea.
I know, but you know a travel advisory.
Yeah.
Today we have them for very dangerous countries.
Yeah.
Don't go to North Korea. Don't go to Iran.
Yeah.
You know where they issued a travel advisory for black people not to go?
Yeah.
Florida. Every day there's stories like that where that just makes people roll their eyes.
What? They issued a travel advisory for Florida? Don't black people live in... Yeah, black people live in Florida. I know of you black people who live in Florida. I hope he's joking. I hope that's a lie. I really hope that's a lie. I hope the NAACP did not issue a travel ban to Florida. That is extremely far left. Extremely far left. Considering a large portion of black people live in Florida. So, anyways, let's continue.
And go, are you people nuts? Even if they don't matter that much, I don't think one person listened to this and thought, I can't go to Florida. But they just suggest something to the average person, which I completely understand, which is, wow, do you people ever find anything that's ridiculous? Do you really think men can get pregnant? You know, that kind of stuff. And I understand that a trans woman can get pregnant. That's different than a man getting pregnant. And the way they sort of insist on blurring that line is if that's some sort of reasonable social cause, as opposed to just being for having full rights, respect, and protection for trans people. We get that.
So I've never heard about men getting pregnant. I've never heard about this argument. It must be some part of what you call the far left that is so minuscule that I, who am...
No, Jane.
What?
It's not minuscule, and I'm sorry, you can't throw this back on us. I assume it's because you are locked into media that just never wants anyone in their audience to know anything sketchy about the blue team.
Well,
and
I mean, I don't know. I read two papers, and I maybe I don't. I should watch Fox News.
No,
I guess
I don't watch Fox. That's too far. But you don't have to. I'm not going to torture myself. When I head back east for...
So now they're talking about the news sources that they watch or don't watch. But I do think this is an interesting discussion because it seems as though this woman, Jane Fonda, didn't know that the far left existed. To me, that's kind of crazy because obviously the far left exists. The same way a far right exists. So when she said, oh, list those organizations, and he listed an organization immediately, and he listed an example of what that organization did, and she acted shocked as if she's surprised far left is a real thing. Obviously, it's a real thing. We live on Earth. There's a far left. There's a left. There's a centrist, there's a right, then there's a far right. I thought this is just common sense. You should just know that, yeah, if there's a leftist, then there's a far leftist. Jesus.
Be
So am
able
I.
to attain a middle class life.
That's right.
That
Yes. That's not what we're talking about.
childcare should be. I mean, this
Yeah, sure.
this isn't far left, and
No, that isn't. It's interesting. The Democratic politicians, generally in this country, are not far left. They don't stand up to the crazy when they hear it. That's true. But they themselves, like after 2020, a big rallying cry was defund the police. You remember that?
yeah, I was critical of that.
Okay. Okay. And so were most Democratic politicians. The Republicans
I know
tried.
where it comes from, though. I mean, I understand where the desire to do something about a police force that all too often is willing to shoot black people. But
Well-
defund the police, I knew was a very bad political slogan.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot we could unpack there, but that certainly has been the history of this country. Was police who were all too willing to shoot black people. So defund the police, though, was not a good idea. And you know who mostly didn't think it was a good idea was black people, because they want police in their neighborhoods, probably more than we need them in ours. But the Republicans tried to catch the Democrats with this, and they put this on, they brought it up in Congress.
Yeah.
And all the Democrats voted against it. The Democratic politicians were not for defunding the police. It's that radical fringe that has captured a lot of the media, academia, some of these cultural institutions that are not liberal anymore by my old school liberalism. The ACLU was all about free speech. They don't really believe in it anymore. They believe, in one of their chief people who is trans said, I will die on this hill of banning this book, which was a very reasonable book about a subject that's still debatable.
What was the subject of the book?
How we should treat kids who say they are trans.
Oh, yeah.
Which is one of those issues, I think, which is, there's a centrist position that's like, yes, of course it's a real thing that we should deal with, but we are a country that does it in a way no other country does anymore.
How so?
Allowing no age limits and do it by self-diagnosis of the child, and make it illegal in some places to tell the parent if the kid is in school and has transitioned, using a different name and so forth. I've heard them say it's outing the child. Outing to a parent?
He's making a lot of sense. And whether or not, and I don't really know Bill Maher. I don't know if he's conservative or if he's leftist. I don't know Jane Fonda either. I have no dog in the fight. I don't care who wins this discussion or who wins this debate. I couldn't care less. But he's kind of destroying her in this. She tried to basically test his knowledge to see if a far left existed. She tried to test his knowledge to see if what he stands for is actually real and what Trump supporters stand for is actually real, and do they have any merit to behind their beliefs and behind their voting decisions. What's happened, though, is that it seems like he's done a lot of research on these topics. It seems like he knows exactly why he supports Trump or whatever, and he knows exactly why far leftist is the reason why Kamala Harris lost the presidential race. And I'm trying to basically see where she's coming from, understand. She sounds more social, like more liberal, maybe liberalist, maybe a Democrat. That's what she sounds like, and I'm just trying to understand why. But so far, I'm not getting what I expected from this conversation from her. But let's continue.
I think a parent should be able to know pretty much what their kid's doing.
Yeah, normally, yeah. There are probably situations where the parents, maybe the child is being incested or
That is why they do it, because.
But you know what I feel? I feel like you're taking a problem that exists. There is somewhere some pretty dismissible and, far left thing, and you're making it a big issue, and I don't think it is.
This is the argument people say, and my answer to that is, I don't think you know. You're saying I don't know. I think you don't know how pervasive some of this stuff is, and you're right. Many schools, it's just like school was sort of in our day. I do hear, I talk to parents, and some of them say that, but there's also undeniable. You can see, like, you don't need a filter of any sort of media to see teachers who are making TikToks and telling you about how they conduct their class and so forth. And it would, I imagine my parents would not approve of some of that stuff. And it's okay. It's okay. We want to have a world where the kids understand that it's okay to be whatever you are: gay, trans, black, white. This is old school liberalism. It's another thing to sort of put out the idea so much that you might not be the default setting. There is a default setting. That doesn't mean it's better. It's just a
No, I don't understand what you mean when
male and female.
What's the default setting is?
That babies are born either male or female. But there is variations. That doesn't mean it's worse. And we respect it just as much.
Yeah.
But that's not what they do. That's not what a lot of the TikToks are about. They're not,
I know this because I've been around longer than you have. And what I have always noticed is that the beginning of any movement, people are very radical and very, I don't know what the right word is, but and then it kind of like.
But then hear what she just said. The beginning of every movement, people are very radical. That's what she just said. And I'm a third party here. I'm just listening to what you're saying. I'm listening to the words. The reason I have a problem with that statement is because at the very beginning of this reaction, you question if a far left even existed. You definitely questioned him and said, well, can you list the far left organizations, in a very almost condescending tone, trying to imply that there is no far left. But now you're saying at the beginning of every movement, there's a radical, aka a far left or right or far this or that created. So are you going back on your own words? Or maybe he convinced you in the moment that, oh yeah, that does exist. I don't know. It just kind of seems like you're making excuses, because initially you didn't even believe it existed. Then you found out it existed, and now you're trying to justify that using your all-knowing wisdom that didn't exist 10 minutes ago. I don't know.
Joins reality more. And I think that's...
Yeah, like I said, the Democratic politicians, I feel like by and large, they do live in reality. They're in it more for the right reasons. They're more likely to be policy wonks and actually know the details. Republicans, very few of them ever know any detail. That's just not where their mind goes. Bush, Reagan, Trump, you think of them and you don't think of them like really mastering the subject, like Obama, Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton. They were wonks, and that's what you really need to be an effective governor of the country or the state. But like Clinton and Obama, which are our last two successful Democratic presidents, 2-term, both of them went much more toward the middle. That was their success. And I don't see anybody anymore going toward the middle. The Trump people, they just go toward being as big a dick as we can. We'll have a rally and let
me just
say awful things and call her a whore, just disgusting.
And that's what I actually alluded to this in a previous video. I think politics today is extremely polarized. I'm not going to say who started it because I don't know who started it. I'm not a historian about politics, especially. I'm an engineer. That's what I am. I will say this. Once we started referencing morality to your political party, that's when it went downhill. Once you started calling people racist or idiots or stupid or sexist based off of a president they voted for or based off of the party it even got simpler based off of the party they represent. That's when things got bad. Because let's say someone is a liberal and you immediately say they hate Jesus because they don't support conservative beliefs. They're going to get mad. Or let's say someone's a conservative and you immediately call them racist based off of their beliefs. It's going to get really bad. It's going to get bad, man. Because at that point, you're not even talking about their beliefs. You're talking about them as a person. That's where we are now in politics, and it sucks. But, hey, what can we do? But anyways, I'm going to end this video right here. Let me know if you guys want a part 2. It's LFR Jojo, and I'll see you on the next one.